Okay, live there. Thank you, Sasquatch. No, wrong button. I think that might be better. Because I'm slightly at a different angle, I can't change that light around too much. But hopefully that'll work. Oh, we have 3 viewers already. Make yourself known. Bring this in here just a little bit. So, for those of you that are watching, and I shall probably repeat this a few times, we are testing 1080p streaming, which we've just upgraded to. So I want to make sure that it's good enough. You can see my Simpsons Day calendar. Shot. It's not very professional. Nor is the paintbrush to dust the keyboard, which I did earlier. Sat in the corner for a little while. So anyway, yeah. So we've just invested in 1080p streaming. So we wanted to test what it was like. So if you can give us some feedback on that, make sure that the feed is crystal clear. The overhead cam for this is a 1080p cam. It's basically my daughter's old iPhone that she's just relinquished at great cost to myself. So I thought I might try and use that as a dedicated camera. Set fixed focus on the camera. Yeah, it is. Now, see, this is the thing. It's a webcam. And I have gone in there numerous times, and you go in and you set fixed focus on, you can't do anything with the focus on here, but within the Logitech app, you can set fixed focus, and yet it still does that. Oh, look, he's moved, boom, and he's moved again, boom. Now, to say normally during the show, I don't move a huge amount. So why it does this, I don't know. I'm not. If anybody knows a way of completely overriding that on a Logitech C922, I think it is, I'd be most interested. There must, I don't know. There's a way. I mean, say I just thought I went into the Logi app and turned off autofocus and set it as fixed maximum, like infinity, whatever. And yeah, it doesn't seem to behave. That's actually something I am going to be asking of some experts fairly soon, because I want to see if I can invest in a DSLR or a mirrorless cam to use for this. But the problem is they're not cheap, and as generous as donations are, we don't have enough to purchase one of those. So I'm just wondering if there's like an inside bit of insider knowledge, a secret as to, you know, a decent, cheap kind of bridge camera or DSLR or something like that that can deliver high quality glass and image, but a minimal cost, which is, you know, obviously something that doesn't happen often. Anyway, we have a massive amount of 5 years. I don't expect many people, because I've just literally done this off the back of just getting upgrading, and I just wanted to test it. We might do another one of these between now and the next show. But what I thought was, that I would whack this little beastie out, and this is the Yamaha CE-25. Facebook user. I don't know who you are, because in Streamyard chat it just shows you up as Facebook user. What you have to do is go into, I can't remember, there are some instructions somewhere. You have to allow Facebook to access your profile, let Facebook access your, let StreamYard access your, it's a Sunday afternoon, I've had a bit of a lay-in. You have to let give StreamYard permission to access your Facebook. That's it. There are instructions somewhere. I think if you check on the ProSynth Network page, and if you find like the link to the latest or the next show, which is Michael Oakley on next Friday, there are instructions there. That way I can then see who you are as a Facebook user. You need to just grant permission, that's all. There you go, it's Torsten. Okay, so yeah, either way, I mean, YouTube is just dead simple. Anyway, so for those of you that are just joining, this is just literally a bit of a mess around. There's nothing serious going on here. We don't have any special guests. It's just me and thee and the CE-25, and I thought I'd just take the opportunity to crack it out and let you have a listen, because it's quite an interesting little piece of gear. And so I'm just testing a couple of cams, and most importantly, we're testing the 1080p stream, which we've just gone to, which is a full HD. It's the highest we can go with StreamYard. We haven't quite got into the realms of 4K yet. That's a lot more expensive, and we need a completely different system and better cameras and everything. But thanks to everyone's more than generous donations over the last kind of, 7 or 8 months, I think. You guys have been incredibly generous, and we have been putting that money to upgrading this to full HD, and we can now record individual audio streams, and we might be able to take the video show and make it into an audio podcast as well, so you can catch up maybe in the car on your podcast service. That's something we can potentially do now. We can broadcast to more destinations, which is useful, although I think Facebook, YouTube and Twitter are probably might start a Twitch channel up. That might be interesting. So yeah, we'll do that. So really all we are here to do is just have a bit of a mess around, a bit of a laugh. If you want to join in the chat room like Torsten and Sasquatch and Mac, that would be most enjoyable. But so anyway, let's crack on. It is 2:45 here in the UK in the afternoon. It's a Sunday. It's kind of got a bit miserable. I've got the window slightly open, so if you hear any bird sounds, that's the birds doing their thing. Anyway, this is the CE-25. Let's go full shot on that. So here it is. This is the CE-25, and it's Yamaha's third official FM hardware release from, I believe it was 1981-82. And that's when it was originally released. It followed the CE. So actually, this is the fourth. I tell a lie, it's the fourth official FM commercial release from Yamaha. The first was the GS1, then there was the GS2, then there was the CE-20, and then this, the CE-25. And then a year or so after this got released, of course, we had the mighty DX7, and that was it. You never look back. So what is the CE-25? What does it do? How does it sound? And what makes it quite a unique but quite a special and much loved instrument by those who've got it, including one Mr. Hans Zimmer, allegedly, as he told us in the group not long ago, that he loved his, I think he had a CE-20, and he had his customized and MIDI-fied, because this predates MIDI. So you've only got 4 connections on the left-hand side here. You've got a couple of like a sustain pedal and the sustain and expression pedal. You've got a single audio output, and you've got a headphones output, and that's it. Just four 6.4mm jacks on that side there, and nothing else. There's nothing on the back. It has this kind of fake wood effect band that goes around with Yamaha in gold letters. It looks quite nice. And of course, you can see here there are two holes for a music stand, which clips underneath. Unfortunately, my one disappeared. It wasn't, the original owner didn't have it anymore. It's not a big thing, but there is that little anally retentive part of me that says, "Oh, I wish I had that because then it would be complete," but it's not. Anyway, so you can see this, the form factor. Actually, if you look into like Yamaha's home keyboard market at the time, this was the CE20 and the CE-25 form factor borrowed, and it was actually identical to, I think it was the I forget, there was a P. It was like one of the first ever Porter sounds. And on the Porter sound, this section here on the left, where you see just one wheel, is actually like a speaker, but on here it houses a wheel, but it's not a pitch bend wheel. I'll explain that in a little while. But this was a kind of a common form factor for the kind of home keyboard range. Now, what you have to understand is the GS1 and the GS2, which were these big, very expensive preset FM machines, they used FM in a different way to the Yamaha DX7 that came along, a few years later. And the inherent difference is that the DX7 and all subsequent Yamaha FM synths from that point onwards used algorithmic FM, which means that they took the operators and they arranged them into a number of different algorithms. And you chose your particular algorithm to suit the type of sound that you were making. But the GS1 and GS2 and then the CE20 and the CE25 use cross-modulation FM. So instead of giving you access to any algorithms, you basically have pairs of operators. So obviously, operator is like a mini synthesizer. It has an oscillator and an envelope generator and a filter inside there. And that's what constitutes an operator. In algorithmic FM, you use the operators as either carriers or modulators. So a carrier is what you hear, and a modulator is what affects the carrier. But in here, and in all the other CE and GS synthesizers, they had groupings of two operators. So you had pairs of operators, and the two operators could, modulate each other within that group, but they could also, each grouping of each pair of operators could cross-modulate the other pair, and it gave you a kind of a richer, fuller sound. And that was the sound of the GS1 and the GS2 and the CE20 and the CE25. And essentially, the internals of the CEs were very similar to those of the GS2. So the GS1 had 4 pairs of operators, so 8 operators in total, but only, in groups of 2 that could cross-modulate. The GS2, the CE20 and the CE25 had 2 pairs of operators, so just 2 sets. So they were essentially 4 operator FM synths, but not in the way that the DX would implement them in algorithms. And the resulting tone was distinctly FM, but it kind of had a richer, fuller sound. And this is why these things are actually kind of sought after. I was really lucky. I found a guy in Manchester who was selling his for about 70 quid. And this is it. And it's got a little bit, sort of few little bits of marks on here. It needs a little bit of just a bit of TLC. It's fully operational, but the keys are a bit squeaky. The mechanics are a bit squeaky, but everything works. And it just needs a bit of a cleanup. But other than that, it's absolutely fine. So how does it sound? Well, it sounds very FM-y. So let me just kind of take you through here. So it's a preset machine. You cannot program any of the sounds on here. You work with what you've got. And across the top here, and I can't really kind of zoom in on this, but hopefully you'll be able to see. So the first 5 sounds here, which you just select using these switches here, these are the first 5 brass sounds, and then you have 3 string sounds, 2 organ sounds, and then 2 sounds called poly lead and 2 sounds called poly bass. And then you have these 6 patches here called percussive. Percussive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So those are your presets. And then over here, you have these 2 buttons. So you have a preset button that turns presets on or off. And I'll explain what that does. If you don't have the preset switch selected, all of this stuff over here, which I'll explain in a moment, but it's things about sensitivity and vibrato, you can manually change to suit your taste. But if you hit the preset switch and turn that preset light on, every voice that you select here will use a predetermined setting within this group here, and you can't change it. So if you just want to get the preset sounds, make sure you've got the preset light lit and then choose your preset. Or if you want to have a bit more control, then you can turn that off and select your voice and then mess around with the sensitivity and the vibrato and the symphonic depth and stuff like that. And of course, this has got this button here, which is kind of like it's like the holy grail of effects. It certainly was many years ago. The Yamaha Symphonic effect still generates a bit of ooh nowadays. It was kind of a staple in their early digital units, such as the Rev 7, the Rev 5, I believe even the Rev 1, and some of the earlier effects had some as well. But anyway, the symphonic effect, I'll show you that because it needs to be heard really. So preset voices divided into brass, strings, organs, and then poly lead, poly bass, and percussive. And when it says percussive, it's not drum sounds. Okay, so don't worry about that. They're musical sounds, but I'll save those for you. Over here on the left-hand side, so we have a few sections. So let's kind of go from the left hand in. So first of all, this is pitch. So you can tune this to anything that you want, but it's a fairly shallow variance. But yeah, so you have a pitch tuning there. You could, it's because it's fairly shallow. I mean, let me just choose. This is brass 1. It's barely a quarter of a semitone, I would have thought. So it's not like a pitch bend. It is a tuning. Quite why it needs, I guess it's just a tuning with other instruments. I don't know. Anyway, volume control. This is just system volume. That's all it is. Brilliance. Well, I think we all know what that is. It's tone control, essentially. So right up the top, nice and, trebly and crystal clear. Down the bottom, a bit softer. Now, you might have already noticed that this is velocity sensitive. Which, we're talking a keyboard here from 81, 82. Not completely unheard of, but, here we go. Symphonic depth is the next one. I will come back to that one because that, of course, is linked to the symphonic function. Then we have these 3 slides here, which are builder sensitivity. And then when you look at the individual nomenclature here, it says tone initial, tone after, and vibrato after. And with these, you can set the initial tone, the end of the tone, and also the level of vibrato. So let me just show you this to take them all down. We'll come to the vibrato last, but this is tone initial minimum and tone after minimum. So the harder I hit that, there's not really any variance. So with tone initial, the harder I hit, the brighter it gets. Tone after changes the sound if you sustain the note. So these really are kind of velocity controls that give you a degree of control over the tone of the sound or the timbre of the sound, depending on the velocity used during the initial attack phase and then the sustain phase. So if you have them full up, you kind of get the full. Okay, so that's that. So you can choose your settings to do that. Then you have vibrato after. So this has aftertouch, albeit channel aftertouch. So it's not poly aftertouch. That would be amazing. But it has aftertouch. Now, at the moment, it's not really doing much. But when you put on the vibrato, let's give it a bit of speed. Let's bring that down. See a few comments about video freezing. I think it's this camera, and that's a pain. But that's good because that's testing. Okay, so the audio is fine. Just let me know if this camera here is okay. I'm hoping it is. At least that's whittled one thing out of. Thank you, Wagyu. Yeah, so it's definitely this. So this is an old iPhone 6 that I've been kind of given back, shall I say, because my daughter's got a new phone. So I commandeered that, and I thought, well, rather than kill the battery on my own iPhone, which is a 4K iPhone, that's the what is this 10s Max, I think. Yeah, so that's a camera thing. So I apologize. Yeah, I can see it's kind of, yeah, it's pausing, and I don't know why that is. Let's have a look. Let me turn that off. See if that helps. Probably won't. Okay. No, there's still a. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's kind of live with it for now. All right. Okay. So where were we? Yes, vibrato, aftertouch. So you can hear that this has channel aftertouch. There's one, and this is something you won't see unless I fix up another camera at kind of the horizontal plane, is that when you press and hold one key or two keys down, and then you do the channel, the mechanical, I need to open this up to investigate how the aftertouch mechanics work. But it's an interesting kind of mechanism where if you have a couple of keys pressed down and then you push the aftertouch down on that key, all the other keys kind of dip down at the same time. So there's some kind of mechanical connection there. Maybe not quite as an efficient aftertouch system as we got later on. Anyway, you can really see that, especially with the jerky camera. But anyway, so vibrato is affected by aftertouch, and of course you've got some controls here for the vibrato. You have a slow to fast, and you have a delay, which is kind of cool because vibrato that's delayed after the initial kind of attack phase is quite nice, and you can choose a minimum or a maximum. So it just introduces a bit of a delay to the vibrato before it actually kicks in. Now let's come back to this here, which looks like a traditional pitch wheel, but it ain't. It's vibrato depth. So the higher that is, the more the deeper the vibrato goes, as you can hear. More subtle down the bottom, way more pronounced at the top. So you can introduce a whole, bunch of vibrato in there, and you can set the delay after the initial attack phase of the sound, so you can kind of make it quite expressive if you kind of knew how to play properly, which I don't. So anyway, patches, sensitivity, vibrato, brilliance, volume, and pitch. Let's come on to the symphonic mode, because this is kind of one of the things that it's one of its key selling points is symphonic. Now I'm just going to choose a sound that kind of lends itself more to the symphonic mode, which is a string sound. And I played it with the symphonic thing on. So let's play it without symphonic. I've got a bit of reverb on the mixer just to give it a bit of life. And with symphonic mode on, and it just kind of gives it this lovely kind of chorus effect. This kind of, it makes it sound even more like a string machine. So again, this is strings 2, which is kind of the high strings, and then with symphonic, without, with strings 3, without, with, off. It's kind of put that symphonic mode on. It's really lovely. Stick it on an organ with it off. And it almost has a Leslie effect to it. It's really nice. So nice. And of course, when you use it on things like brass patches, so this was the initial brass patch with symphonic mode on, and then brass 2 on its own. It really does make this world of difference, and it does make it very much like, as Wagyu points out, it is kind of like the chorus ensemble modes you get on most string machines, which of course were quite popular at the time, or certainly had become quite popular. So yeah, symphonic mode, and you can change. So let's put this back on here. So that's without, this is with. And you also have this symphonic depth control over here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to bring it down to 0. So it has no, having it on has no effect. But as we go up, let's see if we can notice the difference. And it is lush. I mean, it sounds, I'm hoping it sounds quite good over the airwaves. Really usable sounds, So I wonder if there is a MIDI retro kit, because this obviously predates MIDI. Yes, Torsten, it does work now in Facebook. Thank you. Haven't shown you the poly leads that they call here. So you've got poly lead 1, symphonic mode on, Brett asks, is it stereo out? No, I do not believe it is. It is mono only. Only has a single audio out jack, and there's a headphone jack, but I believe it is all entirely mono. So that's Polylead 1. Polylead 2 without the symphonic mode. With the symphonic mode. Poly bass. Just take that reverb off there and give it a bit of. With symphonic mode, gives it a bit of a fretless quality. And Polybass 2 and then with symphonic mode on. Almost use it as a pad kind of. Which is a rather nice. With symphonic off. So it gives it a really nice kind of fizz. So that's the kind of the core sounds. Now we have this separate bank over here. I'm not entirely sure why it's separated from all the others. There doesn't seem to be any specific reason, but they're called Percussive 1 through 6. And I thought when I first got this, I thought, blimey, it's got percussion sounds, which is odd for an FM synth. And of course, it wasn't that at all. These are percussive timbres, and you'll understand. Well, you'll think, oh yeah, there is that FM sound. Let's just turn the vibrato off there. And you all thought that the electric piano sound was launched with the DX7. But it was right here with the GS and the CEs. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sasquatch says the overhead camera is frozen. I mean, it was working fine before. I wonder if I do this. I'm just trying some things. No, it's gone all funny, hasn't it? Okay, let me try something else. We're going to turn that camera off. So just bear with. This might go a bit squiffy. So I'm going to stop that cam. Ooh, that's a horrible face. Right, so let's go into the settings, and I'm going to turn that off. And right, bear with technology. So maybe that is not a great idea using that one. So maybe we do have to use the fancy hardware. Right. Let's go into there and we pick up that. Right. Okay. Now this is where it all goes completely Pete Tong, because I had some trouble with this earlier. So I'm going to set that. Okay. Right. I'm going to exit there. So hopefully now you've kind of got full screen me. I'm sorry. Yeah, very true. Yes, Wago, it was on mains power because the battery is a little bit squiffy, but I was just testing. But I shall use my new fancy on. So let's see if we can get this to work properly. Just bear with. This is all good. This is all just a nice little test. So we get that, and we do that. And we've got Indy there. We'll mute that. We'll go to that. And we'll choose that camera. Ah, yes. There we go. You can enjoy the birds tweeting in the background. Right. So hopefully, let's bring this into the stream. Right. Okay. I apologize for my big belly getting in the way. Actually, let's do it that way. And then we do that. Of course, the camera's on the other side. That's a bit too much. Move the tripod now. Easiest thing to do. And now we're on the hut, as we say in East Anglia. So that's even more on the than it was before. Look at this live camera rigging. It's a bit lower. You have no idea how much or how little space I have in this room. Right. Let's get that angle sorted. Lock that off. Okay. Yes, I know I need to lose weight. Right. Okay, so now we have, hopefully. So can we get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Oh, get in the hole. There we go. I've seen lots of recommendations for the Razer Kaio Pro, about 180 quid. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I'll bear that in mind. Yeah, I'm kind of looking for some options. The only problem is I'm so restricted for space in here that whatever I get has kind of got to fit into. Anyway, but yeah, thanks, Wagyu. Saying looking smoother so far, and that's good. Obviously, this is the 10s Max iPhone, I think, so it's got a 4K cam, and obviously a much more powerful processor than the 6. Right, so let's see what else. Brett, hello, Brett. Same form factor as the PS20. Yeah, I said that earlier on. It's the same form factor as the PS20 and 30, whereas on those machines, this area here on the left was actually a speaker and didn't have the what looks like a pitch bend that isn't, is actually vibrato depth. Anyway, so let's go back to this. Let's get my, you can just see my belly. I really couldn't get an angle where you couldn't see my gut. Right, let's just move this a little bit along. Oops, that way. Just get this looking. There we go, a bit more central. So, where were we? Oh, that's right. We were looking at these things. Sorry, I just banged my bloody elbow on the KX. Oh, yeah, mother. So we've got these 6 percussive sounds here. Percussive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they're not percussion. They're not drums. They are sounds that have a percussive character. Why they didn't just call this electric piano? Because that's what that is. And do you know, I've played this against a DX7 classic E piano, and I like this, particularly when you stick the symphonic mode on. And it has, because it has velocity, you get that. I'm sorry, I know I'm getting a bit of bass rumble through the mic. It's not perfectly isolated, but yeah, there's that. With the symphonic mode, it just sounds lush. Right, so percussive 2, what's that? Hey, it's another electric piano. This is much more like the traditional kind of electric piano, and again with symphonic mode. There's a great video. I think I might have posted it in the group, of a guy doing a cover of a Cassiopeia track using this. And it's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant. And I just sat there thinking, God, I wish I could play like that to make it sound like this. So yeah, percussive 1, percussive 2 are kind of 2 different E pianos. Percussive 3, kind of like a plucked string and an E piano thing. And with symphonic mode, quite nice. You hear the squeaking of the keys. The mechanic just needs a bit of a cleaner service. But so that's percussive 3, and then percussive 4. There's a very famous sound from the DX7 called Stratocon, which is kind of like a Stratocaster pluck sound that Depeche Mode made very famous by sampling it into an Emax or an emulator, I think it was. And that's kind of reminiscent of that. It's a much more plucked guitar-y type. And of course with symphonic on, is very nice. And then percussive 5 is this. Kind of a marimba-y type sound, of course with symphonic mode. Percussive 6. Now we're getting into bell territory. Of course, I couldn't disappoint. Not quite Top Gun. But what struck me about this, I was expecting cheesy FM sounds. I knew what the architecture was inside, and I knew it shared the same architecture with the GS2, which was a very expensive preset synthesizer. I wasn't expecting it to sound quite as good as it does. And these sounds might not be to your taste, but they sound really, really, really good. And there's virtually no noise from this machine in terms of the sonics. It's lovely and clear. And it's just so nice. You do wish you could just dive in and just tweak things a little bit, just to, you know, maybe give it a bit more oomph. But yeah, if you kind of give in to the limitation of it being a preset and obviously not being MIDI compatible, and as Brett's just pointed out in the chat room, yes, there probably were MIDI kits, because as I said earlier on, Hans Zimmer pops up in the group a little while ago. I think after myself or Michael Whalen might have posted a picture of the CE-20 and the 25. And he said he loved the horn sound so much on this that he had it taken apart and midified and actually put into kind of like a box of some description. It might be that Native VS, I think, might own that, or one very much like it. Wagyu says it would be interesting if it could be circuit bent. Yeah, I'm sure it can. I'm sure that there's some clever people out there that could do that, but that's not my thing, really. Yes, you can. I mean, you can shape the sounds to a degree. Now, you might be wondering what this preset button is. I did explain earlier. So I'll just explain it again. You have these settings here, sensitivity and vibrato, which you can manipulate for each individual patch to get, you know, the sound that you want. However, I guess somebody at Yamaha said, well, it'd be great if we could just give everyone a set of patches that we, you know, have optimized those settings for. And that's what happens when you press the preset button. So when the preset button is lit, now when you choose any one of these, it brings in a predetermined set of, that's, I guess, is that the etymology of the word preset? A predetermined set? I don't know. Or preset. Where did the word preset originate? There you go. Homework question for you. The etymology of the word preset. So this predetermined set of settings are now invoked. And it doesn't matter what you do here. It doesn't make any... It kind of makes these redundant now. Completely redundant. Because these are presets. And you'll notice that some of these presets, I'll just try and find one. Here we go. String 1, its preset brings in Symphonic automatically. So really, that's all the preset button does, is stored in memory are a bunch of settings that when this preset button is switched on, then whenever you select a patch, it invokes all of those settings and minimizes the usefulness of these, or, you know, eliminates, should I say. Vibrato depth still works, but all of this stuff with the vibrato has no effect. It's only when you do that. So that's basically it, really. You have, what do we have here? 5, 8, 10, 14, so it's 20 presets. Now, the difference between the CE-20 and the CE-25 was mostly that the CE-20 had some mono sounds and a bit of, had a portamento feature. I'm not sure it was called portamento, but it did the same thing. This doesn't have it. This is polyphonic. How many notes polyphonic? I don't honestly. Quite a bit. I can't remember how polyphonic this is, but it's quite a bit. But yeah, that's what the CE-25 brought to the table. Was it got rid of the monophonic stuff, and in a way, I wish you could have a mono poly mode that you could then say, well, actually, I want that poly lead to actually be a mono lead. But yeah, So if I find the CE20 and it's at a decent price, I'll buy one, and then we'll be able to do a comparison. And that's it. That's the CE25. So Brett, you are 100% right. Because there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8-note polyphonic. So there you go. That's the Yamaha CE25, which saw a lot of love back in the day. Sasquatch preset, a setting on the device that is adjusted. Yeah, that's the explanation. That's the definition. But what's the etymology? Where did the word come from? Because we didn't have presets before the last century, did we? So what's the etymology of the word? Where did it actually come from? Is it a contraction? Preset, predetermined settings. Predetermined settings. I wonder. There you go. Bit of homework. Wagyu, have you sampled yet then mangled? No, I haven't. If I get time to do that, yeah, it would be yeah. Mr. Mark Barnes. I'm assuming it's Mark. We had registrations, yeah, because registrations were organ settings, weren't they? You had registrations. Sasquatch says 1934. Is that I don't know? Is that where the word came into use? Yeah, yeah. I remember because I used, believe it or not, I'm a devout atheist, but I used to go to Sunday school when I was a kid, mainly because they had table tennis and pool, and we played football. It was just like having a kickabout with your mates, and then you had to kind of pay the price of half an hour in the service with the vicar. But I used to mess around. I used to mess around on the vicar's organ. Yeah, sorry. That's so. Sorry, it tickled me. But I used to mess around on the church organ, and I remember seeing the word registrations against all these things. And the thing that always made me laugh was, didn't matter whether you chose flute, trumpet, violin, they all sounded like an organ, and they didn't really have much difference to this. I'm sure there are better organs out there. Oh dear, used to play on the vicar's organ. See that poly lead preset version, if we give it a bit of I think it's a bit so I've been looking for kind of uses of this, in popular music and what have you. And it seems like Kitaro are the only people I can kind of find a definitive association with this synthesizer. And I'm not fully conversant with their catalog, but yeah. Apparently this was used on a bunch of stuff. And when you look at Cassiopeia, that kind of great Japanese sort of funk soul jazz funk outfit, you know, the keys player in there was all over Yamaha FM stuff. You know, I've seen videos of him with DX1s, DX7s, SYs, big rigs with a KX88, and so no doubt probably a TX816 in the rack as well. But never seen him with one of these. But I'm sure they probably would have had a play. Maybe they had the GS1 or the GS2. Let me just get myself a bit more comfy there. So yeah, there you go. That is the Yamaha CE-25, which I bought last year from a guy in Manchester. It was when we had the lockdown release, sort of like, you know, the end of summer. So I took the opportunity to do a whiz around the north of England, and I think on that day, let's bring this back up. On that day, what did I get? I got this. It was in Manchester. I got the second D-Max 2, which is the one that's fixed down on the rack, the 8 meg turbo. I got an MPK 88 for my boy, which he uses now. It's a nice control of that, actually. I was quite jealous. And there was something else. What else did I get that day? I got about four different things. What's the fourth one? Completely lost that. D-Max CE. I forgot. Completely forgot. No, it's gone. I'm sure I got 4 things that day. Anyway, so yeah, I picked this up for like, I think it was 70 quid or 69 or something like that. And he just used to use it to play little tunes, and now he doesn't. He gave it to us, sold it to me for a very respectable price. But what really strikes me about this, and I think I've said it before, is that, you know, it looks like, you know, a home portatone type keyboard, and, you know, as Brett pointed out, you know, it uses the same casing as the some of the early the PS20 and the PS30. So it has that look about it, but actually, you know, this is a really nice sounding FM synth that has, you know, all of the kind of the FM qualities that you would expect, you know, bell sounds and electric piano sounds, but also some really nice strings and some yeah, and some really useful sounds in it. And it's just a shame that, you know, as standard, obviously it was pre-MIDI, you can't sort of like hook it up and use it like that. So you kind of have to know how to play, unlike me, you see, which probably is why it sits in the corner most of the time. But there you go. That is the Yamaha CE-20. Should we do something else? Should we bring something else into play? Because I'm having a bit of fun here and dinner's a way off. So let me just kill the volume on that, turn that off, unplug that. So that's the right channel. Okay, I'm going to go take these off. Bloody bird's nest in here. I have to walk around everything to get to it. Right. I've just realised I'm wearing the same t-shirt as I was on the show on Friday night, but don't worry, I took it I haven't worn it all the time since then. I do change my clothes. Promise. Right, so also need to check. Look at that. I think that's probably the original plug. Look at that. Horrible thing. I actually went out and bought a bunch of, kind of tough black plugs yesterday, and I bought what I thought I needed, but actually I forgot this one. But never mind, eh? Right. Let's just move this out of the way. Let's just turn it up. Right. So let's get that out of the way. Did Yamaha make anything that didn't sound good? And this is very true. Let's just answer some of these questions here. So, rather unique unit. For how long was the production? 1 year. Yeah, probably. I don't see them being manufactured beyond 83. So I think these were around 82. CE-20 was about 81. So yeah, quite a short production, I would have thought. What else have we got in here? Some products may have been limited and internal speakers never sounded good, but anything with an audio out sounded fine. Yeah, a lot of those PSRs and PSSs, when you stick them through, proper audio like we've been doing here, they do sound a lot more professional. I bet that plug's been trotting on in the night. Yeah. Sneaking in. Our White's lemonade. I'm a secret lemonade drinker. So here's something new that I got the other day. So I don't know if can I do a zoom? Hang on a sec. Right. Can I do a zoom? Oh, yeah. Although I need to move the camera. So this is... it always catches me out there. This is an MCS2. So basically what this did, it's a MIDI control station. That's its title from Yamaha. Basically sends and receives MIDI data, controller data, so that you can use it with things like, keyboards that don't have pitch bends and mod wheels. So it gives you that kind of control. There's even, I did not know this until I was reading through the manual last night. I've been looking at these for ages, trying to find one. It even has breath control socket, which is fantastic because I've got a couple of BC2s. So you can now, with this connected to whatever synth that you have, you can add a breath control. So it gives you all of that kind of stuff, pitch bend and mod, breath control. You've got 4 pedal sockets at the back. So 2 sustain sockets, 2 expression pedal sockets. Mains obviously there. MIDI in, there's 2 MIDI ins and 1 MIDI out. And it sends program change data, so you can very quickly send program change data to any keyboard. And you can also use the sliders here to scroll through various settings. And I was testing this out with the Kodomo Essence FM, purely, just because it was the closest thing to it. And it was sending all the correct MIDI data, and I was able to scroll through patches on the Essence. So somebody had a little nibble on the 8 key there, but it still works. So that's the MCS2, which is great. I remember somebody saying to me a while back, is there any way that I can add pitch bend and modulation to a keyboard that doesn't have it? And I said, well, if you've got MIDI, this is the thing. So if you have a tone module, like, this was designed to kind of work with things like the TX7 and those kind of things, which didn't have any kind of expression or, you know, significant MIDI control. You just plug this in and away you go. So yeah, I got that. That arrived yesterday, the MCS2, which is, and it's a really nice, useful little thing. Yeah, so that was that. But the most fun thing that I bought this week was this, and this is the get it in the center. There we go. It's the RX11. So I'm going to need to plug this one in again. I've got a socket under the desk, but I don't really want to be crawling around, so I'll just throw that there. And I think let's just connect the right channels up. So this was Yamaha's first digital drum machine, released in '84, and has the customary X series aesthetic. So just bear with. I need to give this some mains. There we go. Okay, so let's just make sure the volume's down. So here we go. This is the RX11. 12-bit PCM samples contained herein. And let's just give it some, I'll just drop the reverb down a bit. So, you have 16 sounds. 2 snare drums. Actually, you have more than 16 sounds. You have 29 or 30 because there are different snare sounds and different kick drum sounds and a few different others in there. But you have 16 core pads. So snare drum 1 and 2. Then you have toms. This button needs a bit cleaning. Oh, it's not going to do it now. It was kind of giving me a multi-trigger thing there. 2 kicks, hi-hats, ride, crash, rim shot, shaker, and of course a dose of the claps. And it sounds a little bit like this. And it just sounds like 1984, doesn't it? It's great. I love it. Obviously, I've got over that one. No, yeah, that one. That's the RX5, which way better machine. So you have individual volume controls for the drums. You've got wave, updatable wave ROM cartridges, of which I have a couple. I haven't got them all yet. Loads more stuff in there. You've got bass samples. You can get rid of the bass player, as Dave Spears, I think, pointed out in was it in the show or pre or post show? But he said, yeah, when he got his RX5, it was like, yeah, we can set the bassist now. So yeah, the RX5 is in a league of its own. It's a great machine. But this is the first one they did this and the RX15. And the RX15 was just like a slightly cut down version of this, and obviously retailed for a bit less. But this was their top of the range drum machine back in '84, their first digital drum machine. And it just has this wonderful sound, and it's got this brilliant, obviously like the RX5, it has cartridge port. And so I'm using this is the Synth Square RWC128 cartridge, which has 16 blocks of 2 banks, so 32 banks in total. So this is probably way overkill for storing patterns on here, but it's there. I have got some original RAM 1 RAM cartridges, but the batteries have died, so they it doesn't save stuff to them. But yeah, you got cartridge on here, so you can store all your patterns and your songs in there. And of course, on the back, so I've just got it hooked up to a stereo pair there. But you've got MIDI in and out, obviously. You've got cassette in and out, which is nice to have for saving data. Foot switch, headphone socket, and then you have individual outs here for 8. I think it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, sorry, 10. So cowbell, clap, shaker, tom 1 and 2, kick, snare drum and rim, hi-hats, crash, and ride. Yeah, so there you go. And that's that. And it's got these odd things on the bottom. See these? So you got this kind of, it's like there's screws through there that screw things in and hold things in, but it's like they chose the wrong size screws. And so these things are there to protect the screws. I don't know why that is. I've yet to find out. It's a very odd little design, but obviously it doesn't affect the use of the machine. So there you go. Let's catch up with the chat. Hooks up to the, oh yeah, that's the, how do you rate the WX? Oh, that's obviously for Mark. Wagyu says, I really like the feel of the buttons on the RX5. Yeah, they are similar, but I have to admit that the last kind of drum machines I was using before the RXs, and I hadn't used them a lot, were MPCs, which obviously got the rubber pads. And also, you know, like on my Arturia controller, if I was using pads to put drum things in, I was using those, and they, you know, they have a rubbery, you know, you think, you know, they don't click. Because I was thinking, oh God, if I hit that too hard, that's gonna, and it probably would. But yeah, it have the kind of that clacky sort of thing. But clearly, you know, this is what, 37 years old. I haven't looked inside, but I don't think that they've been. They do need a bit of cleaning because I'm getting some double triggering or ghost triggering there, and some of the buttons seem to lean a certain way. That just might be the spring. I don't know. But yeah, the buttons are quite, they're nice. They're not awful. Wish the cowbell button was bigger than all the others is true. What else? Brett says, oh, why did I sell it? Yeah, well, this is what people like me like, people like you see. We pick them up. Wagyu says, still got to get the Gligli. I suppose is that pronounced for the RX5. Yeah, I looked at that. There are a number of options, and yeah, you can upload your own like samples, and I think you can, when you get that card, it comes with 808s and 909s kind of out of the box. I have been following, there's some people that are doing like 3D printed housings for that card, because when you buy that card, it's just the PCB with a stuffle, and it's just feels a little bit, you know, I don't like having exposed electronics, but you know, there are a number of people making 3D printed cases for them. So if I'm feeling bored one day, I might invest in one of those. Wilderness Music says, back in the days when we had individual outputs for post-processing. It's true, you don't see that much today. It's one of the biggest criticisms of the Uno drum just there, is that it just had a single single output socket, and that was it. No individual outs. But then if you're building a machine and trying to keep it underneath a certain price point, then those sort of things are going to add cost. Poly-end tracker buttons feel similar to those on the RX5. Interesting. I quite like the look of that poly. And I saw Ranz's show where he kind of showcased that. I kind of like that because it looked like it was like this kind of little tabletop sampler as well that you could mess around with. Luis Ali says no pads like Tempest. I'm sure that I haven't played with one, but given the pedigree, I'm sure they are quite nice. I mean, I still think that a decent MPC, not like the MPC 1000s pads were a little meh. You could tweak them yourself or buy some thicker pads, but certainly pads on the bigger MPCs were always. They feel nice. They feel right. I do like that kind of rubbery. You get it's just a nice feeling, and it just feels like you're not going to break it. Wilderness says that he thinks Arturia are being generous with stereo +4 for the price, and that's it. That's the thing. You see, the more of these you put in, the more expensive it's going to get. So there you go. So if you have joined us, because we've been streaming now for like an hour and 20, it's just been me talking bollocks basically with the CE-25 originally. Now we've got the RX11 up here. The reason I'm doing this is because we've just bought 1080p. Let me just bring this. So I'll bring it. So hopefully, because the one thing I always notice when I do the show is I sit here and I look at this, I think, hey, everything looks really quite nice. And then I go back to the show to edit in all the chapters and timings and stuff. And I think, it just still looks a bit fuzzy, doesn't it? Especially, I've got like a 27-inch iMac here, so I have it quite large. And I think, it's okay, it's passable, but you just kind of notice it more. So hopefully, when I watch this back, I'll be happier. But everyone seems to be saying that it is looking pretty good, although my camera does seem to be going in and out of focus. And I just do this, and then, yeah. Kind of, and I'm if I go into the Logitech app, I've turned autofocus off, but I don't know whether that just affects autofocus whilst you're using the Logitech app, or whether it sets the autofocus to off within the camera. And that's all I'm using here for this camera. It's just a 922 1080p webcam, and that's it. What Wilderness Music has just said there, which is something I can completely agree with, that lighting is 90% of quality. And that's why I bought a ring light, which you can, if I do that, you can see in my eyes, because all I had before that was some 6,000 watt flood lamp, video shooting flood lamps with the diffusers on, but they're so big that you can't leave them set up, whereas this just stands behind. There's a gap behind my computer, and it just stands there, and it gives me I have a little remote control, and I got this should have been about 90 quid, and it's a LED ring light. You can tilt it. It's got a camera holder in the middle of it, but of course you can also mess around with the warmth. So that's middle of the summer, and this is Arctic winter. But of course you can also mess around with the brightness, and it really gets I forget what the lumens is on that, but let's just do that. I had it set up. I think that's flash off my forehead too much. I think that's about right. But yeah, absolutely, lighting is everything. The minute I lit myself, it was just like, oh god, I look awful, and you can see every little grain. So I completely agree. Hello, Mark. What's all this then? Oh, yeah, mate, you're 1 hour, 20 minutes late. So yeah, if you are just joining us, we're testing out the 1080p broadcasting, which we upgraded to today. And I have every one of you, if you've donated money to the channel, this is only possible because of you guys. So we managed to upgrade the account. Now that we're in a position that come renewal of that account, which is an annual subscription, so we get the best deal. When we come to renew that at the end of the year, we'll also be able to renew in the pro level with the 1080p broadcasting. So yeah, this was just an initial test, just a mess around. I've got nothing else to do. It's a kind of a fairly dull Sunday afternoon here in the UK. So I thought I'd give it a test. And at the same time, we've been playing with the Yamaha CE-25 and going through all of that because I know a lot of people have been asking about it. And I will probably do a proper video on it at some other point. But I thought, oh, yeah, let's do that because that's something that people don't often see. And then once we kind of run out of that, I brought in to the shot, and I've just locked my screen up, and that wasn't very clever, was it? So the RX11. Just something I put in a little earlier. So yeah, we've been messing around with that, and we had a look at the MCS2 as well, which was a new little addition over there. Yeah, so it's just been a test, really. Nothing. If anybody's missed this, I'm not even sure I'll put this up on the channel. But it's simply just a test to see how that works, and using the overhead cam, which we tested this old thing, which is an iPhone 6 Plus, and my daughter has just relinquished ownership of this at considerable cost to myself, I have to say. But I thought that maybe I could use this as a secondary camera because it's got an HD 1080p camera in there, but we found pretty early on, if you want to rewind, that it wasn't cutting the mustard. It was very juddery, whereas this, which is this is a 10s Max, and so therefore has a much better processor, and that's my personal phone. But I don't know, we've got like 20 people in, according to this, 20 watchers. Oh, cheers, Brett. Thank you. Thanks for coming along. And yeah, you can. I'll leave it up for a little while. But yeah, I've been planning to kind of ask. I know Rands has got his synth streaming Facebook group, but I don't know you guys. What I'd like to have is a better camera for this, this shot here, and maybe I can use the webcam thing for like a static overhead. But then again, I'm not entirely sure it's the best option. The problem is cost. And what I was going to ask in one of these chat rooms where there are lots of very clever people, if there is a really affordable, like a secret option, because I've been looking at modern cameras. Now I have a Nikon 3200, so it's just like the entry level DSLR, and I've got an old Pentax DSLR, neither of which can do webcam functionality, even if you buy one of those little HDMI converters. And I just want something that I can set up, lock the focus, and it's got good glass in it and doesn't cost an absolute fortune. And if it's something that I can use outside of here, that's great. But I'd much rather just have one, mount it, leave it. Now I've spoken, I spoke to Nick at Sonic State, and he's using a Sony A6000, I think it is, and he looks amazing on that. And Gaz, yeah, as Wagoo's just said, Gaz and Nick use old Sony A6000s. and his other cameras are old 1080p camcorders. See, I don't even have the last camcorder I bought was a used, was it digital, the little digital cassettes on it. So it wasn't even 720, I don't think. Anyway, so yeah, I just want to invest in some very low cost, and I'm happy to buy used. And I keep flicking through like used camera sales pages, whether it's on Facebook Marketplace or in we have a Wex Photographic, which is kind of local to me here. And I just keep looking for something that has webcam functionality that you can use for 2 or 3 hours, for a stream, that has really good quality, but doesn't cost a lot of money. And I just wondered if there was like everybody knows, this particular make or model is really good for that, and it's like a bit of an inside secret. I don't think there is, because I think we'd have heard about it. Panasonic HCV 180K. I'll have a look at that. Thank you for your suggestions. I got something. I think it was Amazon, because obviously I've been looking on Amazon and it started throwing up suggestions. There do seem to be a whole bunch of like Chinese made kind of 4K cameras, but some of them say they can do live streaming, but I'm always cautious about buying cheap. What's the saying? Pay less, buy twice, I think, something like that. Wagyu says it seems mainly with SLRs you need to make sure you get one you can hack the firmware on, so it doesn't turn off every 30 minutes. This is true. I think more are getting better. You put them into like live view mode or something. And Mark says, forget 4K. Yeah, the 4K we're just not. That's unnecessary. 1080p, that's fine. Because whilst I've got fiber here, and it's good because I'm only like 500 yards from the exchange. You can see, look at that. You can see my bruise. Look at that. I get, pretty much all of what I'm supposed to get. I think we're supposed to have 80 down, 20 up, and I get something like 70 something down and 18 up. So we're pretty good. It's still, I have mesh networking here now, which seems to work a lot better than what I had before. But of course, I live in rented accommodation and can't mess around with electricals and internals without having to jump through so many hoops. I resent paying huge amounts of money to change something in a house that I don't own. That might change soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So if anybody has any recommendations or something that I when I say cheap, I do mean cheap, because I don't have a huge amount of money, and I don't want to dip into the ProSynth network funds, because that's primarily to keep the channel on air. We don't have that. We have, it doesn't matter how good my cameras are. Mark says I get 1.1 up. That's bad, isn't it? I must admit, we're in the middle of nowhere. Well, mostly in the middle of nowhere. The nearest town's about 7 or 8 miles away. It's just a little clutch of villages here in East Anglia. But we had fibre a few years ago put in, and we were one of the first to get it, and because we have our own exchange in the village, because most of the villages around here, they connect to like the local town exchange, which they might be some miles from, so they their speed downgrades. But I hope we've actually got our own exchange, and I'm literally 500 yards from it, and so we get almost everything we're supposed to get. My mother-in-law, get this. So Wagyu's just said he's got 10,000 down, 10,000 up, which is just crazy. My mother-in-law moved into the village a few years ago in a little new build housing estate just on the edge of the village. There's about 30 houses or something. And BT put fibre to the property rather than fiber to the cabinet. So every single house in there has fiber pumped direct from the exchange into their home. And yeah, they can get like hundreds and hundreds of megabits per second. I think they might be able to get whatever they can get the maximum that BT offer at a price. So if you pay enough money, you get access to it. But it's just bonkers. And the other problem with that is that you're then tied at the moment that she's tied to BT. She can't go elsewhere. She can't compete with the price. But there you go. So yeah, we'll stick with what we've got. But yeah, if anybody's got any decent recommendations or has something kicking around, I wouldn't mind investing a small amount of money in just getting something that's a bit more professional and stable. I'm also conscious of the fact that if I get a really good camera, that's going to make like Ben and Chris, who I think are just kind of using webcams, it's going to make them kind of look even worse, just simply by comparison. And I don't want to do that. I want to make it kind of an even thing. Mark says, for my streams, I use a Canon M6 for the main camera and the M50 for the overhead. Yeah, I mean, I made this big mistake some years ago. I got a bit of a bonus at work, and I said, I used to be quite into photography back in the days when you used to have to use a film. I used to do all my own processing and everything. And I kind of fell out of it, didn't really bother. And I thought, now's the time to get a decent digital SLR. So I went to my local camera shop and looked at, the prices. And I thought, I'll buy a nice kit where I get a body and a couple of lenses, a few accessories and a bag and everything. And the Nikon seemed to be a really good deal. It was a toss-up between that and the Canon. And I just kind of thought Nikon kind of edges it for me. So, yeah, that's what I did. 6 months later, Nikon released the new version. So I bought the 3200, just an entry-level thing. 6 months later, they released the 3300, and that had the ability to be used as a webcam. And I didn't realize this until it came to a point, I can use my 3200 as a webcam. Oh, no, you can't. And so I kind of had a bit of buyer's remorse in that regard. So anyway, I'm prattling on. I'm going to stop now because we're coming up to just over the hour and a half mark. And it's been an absolute pleasure to kind of chat with you all and to test this 1080p streaming. I hope that you enjoyed the little CE-25 experience and the kind of the walkthrough of that, and a little bit of the RX11 and other bits. Might do some more of these random ones as and when, but all I really wanted to do today was to test the 1080p streaming, and thank you for all your feedback because it's most appreciated. But I'm going to love you and leave you because I think my dinner's ready. So just catch up with the last bits of the chat. Mark saying, sorry, I didn't see this earlier. No apology necessary. That's the beauty of live streaming, is it all gets recorded. And when I hit end, you can just go back to the beginning and watch as if you were there. Obviously, you can't interact with the chat. Thanks, Wagyu. You're welcome. Not a problem. Thank you to Sasquatch and to everyone else that's in the chat or has been in the chat. Brett, Brett's gone. Atto Z, Lewis Alley, or Luis Alley, Wilderness Music. Who else have we had in here today? Sonic Energy Authority. We've had Mark Barnes, Angel Star Scotland in the room, and who else? I think it was a few others. Early Doors. Torsten. Yeah, I forgot Torsten. Torsten was in here. My chat doesn't go as far back as the beginning, but yeah. One last thing. This coming Friday, we have Mr. Martin Oakley. Let's see if we can bring. I should have his thing here. Here we go. We got this dude coming in, Michael Oakley, not Martin. I've known this guy for years. I can't even get his bloody name right. Michael Oakley will be joining us 7 p.m. this Friday. He's such a nice guy and a great musician. I did post a link to his album in the Percussive Network Facebook group. Go and have a listen. It's really good. It came out on Friday. It's called Odyssey. So we got him on this Friday, which I'm really looking forward to. And then we've got people like Manny Fernandez. We've got Roger Lyons. We've got John Drake, Suit and Tie Guy. Who else have we got? Oh, JJ Exarlic. Of course, I'm really excited about that one. And I am working on I'm working on someone who I hope to get to join us on the show, who is one of the greatest musicians, keyboard players, rock stars of certainly my generation, if not a little older. But he's still incredibly relevant today, and he has written some of the biggest pop tunes ever and played on some of the most influential and huge albums and songs in the world, and I mean ever. So I'm working on that. No, it's not Wakeman, although he is on my list because he's just like, he's only like there. He's like 20 minutes that way. We could actually go and do a live thing there. It's not Akai Dan. I had some interactions with him many years ago. Manny's in the room. Just woke up. Got to wait for the replay to hear that awesome symphonic. Yes, yeah. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. Look what else I've got, Manny. RX11. Yeah, so I'm working on that. Nick Kershaw, he'd be a good one to get on for sure. Jordan, no, it's not Jordan. You won't get it. But if I pull this off, you will shit the bed. You really will, because I will. So I'm working on it. So we've got lots of irons in fires. We want to keep, the quality of guests has been incredible, and we're keeping that going over the coming weeks. So now we're looking at back end of this year to fill up the books. So I wish it was Jean-Michel Jarre. Have I gotten in with Jean-Michel Jarre? Kind of might have. But anyway, I'm going to stop there. But if I can pull this one off, it's going to be massive, absolutely massive. The guy is responsible for some of the greatest pop songs, some of the greatest keyboard riffs. He's got a massive synthesizer collection. He is an absolute legend. If I can pull this one off, you guys will literally shit the bed. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye because my dinner is about to go cold. So thanks for watching. Take the greatest of care. And I will see you all this Friday, 7 p.m. with myself, Ben, Chris, and Michael Oakley. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.